Hi guys, hello, good evening everyone. We'll just wait for a few more people to join and then we can start. My name is Vidya and I'll be your host tonight. And we'll be having with us shortly Sandeep Sangaru of Sangaru Design Studio. We all know him through his award-winning designs, and we'll just wait for a few more minutes. Okay, thank you so much. So I'll just introduce our guest again before he comes and joins us. He's Sandeep Sangaru. He's an NID alumnus, and he is right now one of the most famous furniture designers India has. He works mainly around craft sector and bamboo, and he has won the Red Dot Award twice, once in 2009 and once in 2015. So we'll be having him shortly. Keep your questions ready, and if you take down notes and jot things down and make little sketches while we are having our session, we can feature you later on Baatein page on our stories. People. Okay, we'll just wait for a few minutes while we wait for Sandeep to arrive. Okay, so we have him with us now. Hello Sandeep.
Hi, hi.
Hi. We'll just have a little audio check. We'll ask our listeners if it's all right, then we can continue. Is the
Okay.
audio okay? Yeah. Can anybody tell us if the audio is okay?
Hello. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
it's fine,
set.
I guess. Okay, it's
This
not
is better.
speaking
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, fine. So we finally have it all right. Hello, I have introduced you. Once more, I'd like to introduce again, although you need no introduction. Sandeep Sangaru is one of the most famous furniture designers in India right now. He works around crafts and he has won the Red Dot Award twice, and he is an NID alumnus. So, starting with our uh, talk, can you please tell us about your association with NID?
Okay. I had two phases of association. One as a student. I joined in '96. Um, did my specialization in furniture. The program then was called AEP. I graduated in '99, and then again I joined back in 2002 as a faculty for 2 years. I was there since 2002 to 2004. Yeah, that's my association with NID. But I've been uh, on and off teaching there very often for a while. I've not been doing that, but since 2004 to 2012, 13, I used to be very regular. Yeah.
So we were studying about your work, and we saw that one of your first designs, the major designs, that's the Trust Me collection that actually brought home the Red Dot Design Award. It started with your trip to Tripura, and you were encouraged by MP Ranjan to be there. So can you tell us more about your first experiences with the craftsmen of Tripura, and how you came about the design?
Okay, the experience was overwhelming for me because before that I never worked with bamboo as a material, and far away from the craft community. So one day, um, me and Mr. Ranjan were having chai, and I had just gotten back from a documentation project for Handmade in India. And then he insisted if I'd like to go and teach or take this workshop for around a month uh, with a new institute that was being set up by NID and headed by Mr. Ranjan. It was called Bamboo and Cane Development Institute. Uh, so a lot of faculty from NID used to go there and take these modules. And Ranjan asked if I'd be interested to go, and I said I have no clue about bamboo or how to interact with artisans and craftsmen because I have no experience. How can I go and kind of teach something? there. Then he said, no, 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 you go there, you will figure it out and all that. And he booked my tickets and I landed up in Agartala like after 6, 7 days. Um, so the moment I landed there, I saw bamboo from a very different perspective because before me going there, my perception of bamboo was also like anyone else perception, like it's meant for ladders or huts or scaffolding. Nothing beyond that. It's a material that easily available. You can use it and throw it away. But the moment I landed up in Agartala and I went to the institute, I saw bamboo being used mostly everywhere for fences, for houses, and everything else. Uh, then over the 4 to 5 weeks I was there, I kind of explored Agartala and villages around by, and started seeing bamboo being used in their everyday lives. So it was used right from building a big house to a very small basket or a utensil or a spoon or a ladle to bridges to fish traps to many things. So that kind of because these are the things that you don't see usually in craft shops or craft exhibitions or bazaars that you go to. What you see is more decorative products which are made to be sold in the market. And since we didn't had any direct exposure while I was a student or while I was there at NID to these kinds of products, I think we were not so curious about the material as students. But I guess once I was there, where it was practiced, where it was used as an everyday material, it kind of triggered my thoughts. Why can't designers work with craftsmen and local materials and tools and when where products have been designed and evolved over many generations and reached a level that they become perfect and you cannot do anything beyond what they have done already. But can we take any inspiration from the techniques, from the tools, from the process, uh, and do something? But while I was teaching the artisans at PCDI, I guess I learned a lot more about bamboo and about craftsmanship than me teaching them anything new that they got benefited. I went there to teach technical drawing and how to understand the drawing, translate the drawing to make a prototype out of. So the whole objective was that to empower artisans with skills that they can interact with designers or architects or creative people or artists to create and make newer collaborations. So that whole exercise kind of taught me a lot of things. One, how do I teach technical drawing to artisans whose whose um, understanding of drawing is very different. They see it more like an art or a painting or a sketch rather than an orthographic where a plan, isometric. These terms are used. So it was quite a challenge for me to kind of tell them directly. So I had to figure out new ways to teach them. Because the artisans who were there were from different states, from Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Mizoram, Tripura, Assam, everyone put together. And but they were good with the skills, the knowledge of bamboo. So at the end of the day, I had to give them a drawing which they can convert into a prototype, which a product that they've not seen before, just by using. So I designed a couple of chairs, divided the class into two groups, gave them one each, and I drew those drawings without understanding how bamboo would be used. Uh, So once they saw the drawings and I told them, okay, we have to do this, we have to bend this, and we have to make this component to this size. They said, okay, Sandeep, हमको वो bamboo लेके आते हैं, वो अच्छा काम करेगा इसके लिए. So it's like they said, told me, okay, this bamboo is going to work better for this, and this bamboo will be better for this. Then I said, what's the difference between this and that bamboo? So that's how I started learning that there are so many species of bamboo and every species has its own characteristics and so on and so forth. So the course got over and I had to come back. And I thought one is I don't know if I'm going to ever come back to Northeast and work with artisans again because there is so much already done. And if I have to do something with bamboo, then I have to be there full time to figure out something. But I was quite curious about the material because all the products that they made was made using one tool, just a knife, and nothing else. Just one material and one tool, and you kind of make so many products that are used in their everyday lives. Very functional products. Uh, so I thought I should take something for myself back and as a memory and as an experience of working with artisans. Then I thought, should I take something existing that they already make, or should I make something and take it with me, something new? Um, so it was like the last 2 days of the module, and they finished making the prototypes which I had given them. I was not so happy with what the design that came up, in terms of design, not the workmanship, but the design itself. They were very ordinary, basic chairs, nothing different. So I thought I should. I had already designed a stool using tensegrity principle, for which I thought bamboo would be the appropriate material. It so tensegrity principle where you use a structural principle of combining tensile and compression members to stabilize the structure. So the compression members are rigid members, which could be a cylindrical member. So I thought bamboo would be the ideal material. So I said, okay, let's use bamboo. I made the stool, but I didn't do anything to bamboo. Basically, I cut bamboo to a size and strung it with a rope. And I thought I'll put a canvas seat later and finish the stool. But then I was wondering, what did I do? I didn't do anything because I just cut bamboo into pieces. So I thought, why not make this seat also in bamboo? So I started trying to figure out how can I make a triangular component. So we started bending a triangular piece and a strip of bamboo, and I wanted to strengthen it further because when you use a strip, it has lateral motion and it was not stable. So I thought I'll use another piece of bamboo from 3 directions. So it kind of, I developed this little triangular component, which at that point for me was kind of, we are making it, all of us, and I was ready to pack up and move and bring something back. But once we all made that whole triangle. The artisans told me, Sandeep, we never used bamboo like this before. So that was like a moment for me, like an eureka moment, like, okay, this has not been done before. So then I started looking at it as a product, and it was quite interesting in a way because it was a very simple geometric form, the very basic, and it was really light in weight, and it was really strong as a structure. And many of you might have seen it's like a stool that you can sit on. So I just got the triangle back with me instead of the tensegrity stool that I made. So I think that was the turning point. I came back with that triangle, and I carried it in my hand through the journey from Agartala to Ahmedabad. I had to change 2 flights, and it had become a point of conversation because everyone was wondering what is that I'm carrying around. So in the process of explaining, I started demonstrating how to sit on it and kind of how strong it is and how light it is. And in that whole journey, the triangle, which was meant to be a seat on another structure, become a stool by itself. Uh, I came back and I showed it to Ranjan, and he was damn excited to see it. And he said, "Okay, we have this bamboo center in our institute. We have two artisans. Why don't you start exploring and do something with it?" And that's how it all started in 2003.
Okay.
Okay.
And I guess you won the Red Dot in 2009 for the Trust Me
Yeah,
project.
so that's a long story again. So I guess a lot of people know about it. I kind of after that, my contract got over at NID to teach. NID requested me to kind of continue teaching, become a permanent faculty, but the whole bug of me to travel and explore crafts caught on to me. So I left NID. I started my own studio. And then I was looking for opportunities to work in crafts. And so happened there was another project which started in Kashmir. And that was also another project from NID. NID was asked by the government to set up a new institute called Craft Development Institute.
Okay.
And Mr. Balram was heading the project. And then he one day called me, Sandeep, there's a project in Kashmir. Would you like to go and work with artisans there? I said, okay, I'll go. So I jumped and take that opportunity, and that was my first professional project to work with artisans who work with walnut wood carving. And yeah, so that project triggered my explorations of craft sector and working with artisans. Since then, I've lived out of a bag for almost 8 9 years.
So, for a person who is such a traveler and explorer, how is lockdown treating you? Because we are pretty much stuck at our homes. Like, how do you keep your creative juices flowing when you're used to traveling and exploring?
Yeah, the thing is, I took a break. I needed this very much. I wanted some time, my time. I think I've been traveling too much and doing too many things parallelly. So I guess I took this as a break to completely kind of take away everything from it. And so I didn't answer my phone for many days. Nor did I was using any of the social media apps to chat or talk to people. If I do get calls, also I used to just kind of not answer them. So I guess I took the 30 days of break for me to uh, regenerate my thoughts and
That's nice.
what to
That's
do
nice
next.
talk.
Yeah.
So, we had a question coming about the craft sector and mass production. So, how do we bring in together? Like, generally, our industrial design courses right now pretty much revolve around mass produced stuff. So, how do we bring together craftsmen and mass production? Like, is there scope for it?
Yeah, very much. That's what I'm doing right now. Once we won the Red Dot Award, what happened was people around the world started seeing uh, the collection, the concept of how bamboo was used. And a lot of people started inquiring about where to buy them and how can we source them and things like that. And I had no clue because that was just a project uh, I had done. And I when people started asking about it, I thought, okay, there's a market, and I need to get it out, and this product has to reach people somehow, and it'll benefit the artisans I work with because all these projects that I work with crafts, they never reach the market. Uh, we as designers go do this project, develop new prototypes and designs. We are all happy within that project time, and once the project gets over, everyone goes on their own way. And all these products that are developed and designed never reach or no one gets benefited through the whole process. So these inquiries triggered the thought in me that okay, can I bring these products to the market and see whether my designs work or not. Uh, we are very happy looking at a concept, but if the design doesn't market well or there's no point designing them. And that's how when I started my company to produce them and market them. So I guess industrial design process came into play here because I had to work with artisans. I had to work with many hands. And how do you bring about consistency in quality, in making, in the whole process? Because when you look at crafts, it's like an individual making a product, and every individual has its own temperament to make a product. And and every product cannot be different. If I'm making one chair, a particular design, it has to be made in a particular standard. So it almost took me 3 years to sell my first product because it took me 3 years to understand the whole process, how to work with artisans, raw materials, develop a ecosystem and a chain of processes so that any set of artisans, if they make this product, the product comes out with a certain quality and consistency. And how do you mass produce? So the advantage with craft sector is we don't have to mass produce like an industrial machine does, right? An industrial machine has to operate for certain hours for it to be profitable. So we have to create numbers in mass manufacturing. In by handmade, you don't have to mass manufacture. You have to batch manufacture for it to be competitive, rather than because another advantage with handmade is you can mass customize because there's no process. It has to go through a machine where the same process has to be replicated 1,000 times or 2,000 times for it to be profitable. Here, every product could be customized to an extent because your hands allow you to do, but the basic design has to remain the same. So I guess my design, industrial design learning was how to design these processes and implement in the making of the products that are made by hand. So lots of jigs and fixtures, tools, making artisans understand about technical drawing and templates and molds, which would help them to kind of create a similar product over and over again with certain consistency. But it's not like perfect machine made, so every handcrafted product will have its own little characteristics. So yeah, I guess industrial design plays a really important role when you want to work with craftsmen or with the craft processes or methods to kind of streamline things in a very innovative way, because we are not trying to bring in machines. We are trying to work with the same set of tools, but kind of not take away from the handmade processes, but still keeping the essence of the craft and the practice.
So basically, we go ahead with the heritage that craftsmen have given us and put them on a global market so they can get value for their work. So you have worked around Pinjrakari and Kathumband in Kashmir. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and these are dying crafts. These were at a point of time dying crafts which were endangered a lot. So, do you think the scenario of these crafts have become better after designers like you have started to work alongside the craftsmen? So, is there a scope for future industrial designers to go ahead and revive the whole Indian craft scenario at some point of time?
I would say, from my experience of working with crafts community and crafts people, um, I think we as designers, we need to understand that they are not the skilled artisans. They've been the creative force before designers came into existence. They were solving everyday problems and making things from architecture to products to everyday things, which kind of evolved over many years. And these communities were kind of design schools by themselves. it is a practice that you learn from the moment you're born in that family or in that community, and you keep seeing and you kind of learn the whole process. So when you go there as industrial designers, first I think we need to respect the knowledge that they have and the experience that they have of working with a certain material and certain process. And it's important to also work with them rather than trying to go and say, okay, we need to design this product. I think it's always better you go and learn from them, and and kind of see how the whole process works, how the ecosystem works. Then you will understand, okay, there are so many factors that influence the product. It's just not that, okay, you draw a sketch on a paper and you make a drawing and say, okay, let's make this. Because when you're working with any traditional craft, it belongs to a place. And when a product is designed, we have to relate to that place through the product. So the story has to come across. And how much can we contemporize, or how much, and what kind of inputs have to be given in that whole process. The product, sometimes we don't need a new product. What we need is the product is good enough. Only thing we need to streamline the process so that it becomes much more efficient and it reaches a wider segment of market. Like Khataman and Pinjarakari, these two crafts that you mentioned. One, Pinjarakari, when I started working, it had languished already. I was quite curious because I was keen on geometry and structures and stuff like that. So I started inquiring about the craft because I did see a lot of Pinjarakari in these old buildings. So Pinjarakari is a craft, people who don't know. It's a lattice work where smaller battens of wood are put together without nails or glue. They're just constructed using wood construction. And it used to be a really intricate craft because it's pure geometry. And there was another craft called Khatamban, which also uses a similar geometrical tessellation of tiling wooden planks. This craft is still active. So there is a larger community of people who practice this craft. So I thought I should first work with the Kadamban artisans to understand how the craft is practiced, because it's almost similar with little changes here and there. But it took me almost a year to kind of break the ice with the Kadamban artisans, that particular community. Even they don't share how they make very openly to locals in Kashmir itself. Forget showing it to me. Whenever I would go there, they would just stop working and they'll just still sit still and they just talk to me and talk about it. And after I go, they start work. So it took me to convince them, like almost okay, of like going in and out of Kashmir for almost a year to we can do something and we can try something new. So it ended up like me challenging them and they challenging me. Okay, because they always said, okay, this is our craft. We know it's a secret and no one else can do it. And if you learned it, then you will take the craft away from our community, and lots of other people will start practicing the craft. Of course, it's true that no one wants to give away their livelihood to another place or another thing. They felt that this craft could be mechanized, it could be made by machines, and China would replicate it. A lot of stories they started telling me. Then I said, okay, but we can still, because it's a tiling, it's a craft which where you use it for false ceiling. So then I started questioning them. Okay, what are the other issues? Things like how much time does it take to make, and what are the issues when you're putting it up? So the whole design inputs that I gave them in that whole project was to streamline the process. I didn't design any new product. So the products were there. Only thing I figured out, okay, these are the things, and if we change these processes, it will become faster, it will become more accurate. You don't have to spend too much time trying to make and assemble this together. Uh, so in that whole process, I understood what design could bring in. It's not that because they have been practicing that craft using the same technique since many generations. So they have not kind of moved away from it. But as a designer, you would like to see it from a different perspective. Okay, no, this can be done in a different way using the same set of tools. So these inputs kind of helped, and that's how we started breaking the ice. And they opened up to me, and I showed them what I can bring into the table, and they showed what how it can be done. So yeah, it was these things how we can go and interact with them first. Yeah.
So you have worked in Kashmir so extensively, and Kashmir is a very sensitive area to travel to work. So has there been any particular experiences that you would like to share as an explorer about the areas you have gone to?
Yeah, I think it's I think something I cannot put it across as simply because it took me many years to figure it out. I think it's all to do with people. How do you interact with them? Uh, of course, every place is sensitive in its own way, and Kashmir has been even more because of the situation that it's been through for many years. Uh, but initial few years when I was going there, yeah, I would kind of distance myself from situations which would put me in a kind of towards the wall and kind of. But as I slowly started working with them, and they started having trust in me, and we started exchanging ideas and thoughts because I was mostly working with a lot of artisans, and since I was working with crafts which had a very strong traditional and cultural language in it. I need to understand their culture and the history of it, and a lot of other things to help me design a product that would help them and me, and need not lose the characteristics of the craft. Unlike in Northeast, where bamboo is a way of life, okay, uh, their bamboo doesn't have any strong cultural language or form or texture or patterns or anything. It's just a material, a technique that you can use and make products. So contemporizing a product in Northeast using bamboo is very uh, easy because there is no background such as if I compare to any other craft from anywhere else in the country. Like in Kashmir, if I'm doing Khataman, there is a certain logic if I have to follow. If I'm doing walnut wood carving, there are motifs, there are patterns, the material behaves and works differently. So I have to follow all of that to create a product. Uh, so I think over the period of time, I think it's you need to be sincere. It's very same. All people are the same. Only thing we just need to kind of break the ice with them. And when you spend some time with them, you'll understand how to do it. I think it's anywhere. Like if you join a new college and you come to a new place, you have lots of new people, and it takes a while to break the ice, and you figure out your ways in and out of it. So it's the same concept, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so you have worked as well around Chennapatna the craft. So generally we see that craft in terms of very smaller objects like toys and jewelry, but you have incorporated it into furniture that is kind of has its own structural properties that has to take load. So how did you bring about this change in the craft, or let's say how did you bring it out of that smaller scale into this large scale object?
I went to Chennapatna to explore small products because I like the whole idea of the toys. They were very cute, and the possibility of just using one technique that you have to turn the wood. and turning it was a challenge, uh, uh, and I liked the colors, the way it was applied, the whole process, because I had documented a similar craft for the handmade in India from Andhra Pradesh, uh, where they make again turnwood toys and products. So I went to Chennapatna to kind of explore the idea. So I started interacting with the artisans there, and as I used always do, I started asking questions. What are your issues? What are your problems? Uh, how do you sell your products? And all those questions that you usually ask. So they said, Sandeep, um, we don't make much out of small toys because they have to make many of them to kind of have a tangible uh, revenue or income. And they asked me if I can do something which can bring maybe a larger livelihood support to them, because otherwise a lot of people are not practicing that craft. So they put me in a kind of a spot that allowed me to kind of think and rethink. So I came back, and I think I went back after a year with this design to make the chair. Uh, I was not sure about how it's going to work, but what happened was we made the chair and I put it up on Facebook and Instagram because I was not sure about, because it was quite drastically different from what we had seen, because I had to use this process. Um, but people started liking it, and that's how it got started. But making it large was nothing but trying to make sure that we use the same process. The scale never changed because they would never could turn more than 8 inches long and a 3-inch large diameter. That's the maximum that they could do. So we worked with that limitation of turning wood, but we had to make many components. So the chair has almost, I think, around almost 180, 120 components put together. But here the challenge was for the artisan to kind of be really precise. So I had to give them templates, jigs, and drawings, and they had to kind of follow, because not one artisan was making one component. So there were 3 or 4 people making the same component, and everything has to come together and fix for the whole big chair to happen. So I guess when you start doing new things, you need to train them in your new ways of thinking and how to do and what are the things that they need to take care of. I think after that chair, they've been asking me if I can make larger products now using the same craft. So we are figuring out new ways and how to use the craft appropriately so that we build a range of products that can be taken forward.
So, you just now talked about how not one person makes all the components. And I guess that's one of the
Yeah.
major things about handmade things, that it's handmade and it's very difficult to make exact copies. And just little, like we were talking about mass production. So, how do we overcome this challenge? Because when something has to be mass produced, they need to be very like similar or exact copies of each other. But when we are including crafts into this scenario, how do we overcome this challenge? Because it's finally handmade.
Yeah, that's a design challenge. I guess it's not a challenge that's a craftsman addresses, because over for a very long time, a craftsman was never challenged to create something like this. They were only used for the skills. Uh, so what happened was they lost that whole ability to creatively think. But the moment when I asked them to make this chair, or when I asked the triangle to be made in Northeast with bamboo artisans, I didn't have the knowledge to make, right? they are more better apt because they know how to use the tool, how to use the machine. And they said, Sandeep, okay, we will do this way and we'll this way and it'll be faster. Because I would go with my own notions of how it has to be made. And I try to tell them, and then they react and interact, and they say, okay, Sandeep, we should follow this and this. So the design evolves over a period of time because then we're trying to figure out how it has to be made so that there is consistency and there is certain quality in it. Otherwise, yeah, every component would be very different if everyone follows. If I try to say, okay, follow this process and try to do it. But I guess we need to challenge the craftsmen uh, to bring out their own creative abilities to solve the problem. Because here the problem is of how do we bring in good quality products with a certain consistency. And they understand it better than me as an individual designer or any designer because that's a practice that they've been doing for many, many, many years.
So you spoke about how you had to give them the higher point, like they had to decide, and so this comes with a process of unlearning for you as a designer. So many times when we as designers work with craftsmen, we'll have to unlearn what we have learned, give away our conventions, and listen to them patiently. So how do we go about this process, make that kind of balance between two different categories of people? How do we bring about that common point?
Okay, I didn't hear your question very clearly.
Should I repeat?
There is some disturbance. Yeah, can you just repeat?
Okay, no, I was asking that you were talking about how you had to first listen to the craftsmen, how to go about the process because they knew more. So when we as industrial designers interact with craftsmen, there is a certain process of unlearning that is included in that process. We'll have to unlearn our ways and give up our conventions, and maybe we'll have to hit a middle ground as two different communities of people. So, how do we go about that process of bringing about that balance between craftsmen and industrial designers?
So this is going to take a while because the more designers work with a larger community of people, the ecosystem of this understanding will build. Uh, Otherwise, it'll like what I've been learning through my experiences. I spend a lot of time trying to understand the process and build that knowledge base. Since I have already built a certain knowledge base with a certain community, if another designer goes and works with the same set of community or the same set of craftsmen, they will better understand what he's talking and what the other person needs. So he can interact with a little more confidence and little more, he'll be a little more forthcoming in the process. I guess the more designers work with a larger community, then I guess it'll become a way of life. Now, every time anything that is first or something that is already kind of languished, and we are trying to rebuild it in a new way, it's going to take a while. I guess more people going and working is what required now.
Okay, so I'd go back to the fact that right now we are in a lockdown situation and the pandemic is going on, and a lot of sectors are going digital. They are being digitized now that they have a future vision that things might not really turn exactly how they were. So in a sector like industrial design where we have to get our hands dirty, have to work closely with the material, how do you see the future of this sector when things are going digital mostly?
Yeah, I think there will be changes that are bound to come, and I think we are inventing new tools. And any tool, when you use it, it's a craft of using that particular tool. Okay, now in the present day, I'm interacting with my initially when I started like 14, 15 years back to go spend much more time. okay, to kind of understand them, for them to understand me. I used to make drawings, I used to take mock-ups and explain them the whole process, or make a 3D model on the computer and show them. But now, once they've understood the whole process, and they also understand how technology is helping them to see and visualize a product, it becomes much faster. Even they can give inputs before the product is made. Uh, and you're empowering them with newer skills. So I think as technology is growing, as things like you're getting 3D printers, everything is getting digital. For you to kind of communicate with them, it becomes very easier if these tools are used. So I don't have to be there all the time to explain, maybe. So I can just send them a file and they can just print it out and see, okay, what I need. Uh, and see how they can build the product using their tools.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Actually, that can help. Okay, so earlier we had a question coming. It was you were a teacher earlier at NID. And do you look forward to going back to teaching, or are you looking forward to exchange of knowledge that way? And how was your experience as a teacher?
I think your voice is cracking. It's the signal is not clear. So
Okay, maybe I'll just repeat again. Can you hear me now?
yeah.
Yeah. So we had a question earlier that since you were a faculty at one point of time in NID, so do you look forward to going back to being a faculty again or being a teacher again? And how was your experience at that time as a teacher or a faculty?
Yeah, it was just few years. I graduated in 99 and I went back in 2002. Uh, and I had no prior experience of teaching. I had no clue how to do that. But I guess it was a good experience because while when you're a student, you see it from different perspective. When you're on the other side of the table, it's a completely different perspective. And I think it was really wonderful for me because I I came back and I, I started and I started teaching with the faculty who taught me. So I was like a co-faculty, and they were my colleagues, and it was one of the most wonderful experiences. I guess I think those 2 years uh, was, I guess I cannot put it in words, but I learned and I enjoyed the experience of teaching design because it's not a formula that you put on the wall and everyone follows it. So it's like, yeah, you have to figure out ways to find a way out.
So, so you were a student in NID as well. So, as students, NID is always very close to our hearts, and we all have certain experiences that have shaped us, and that we will always want to go back to once we are out of the institute. So, do you have certain experiences to share with us as a student that, like, that was very valuable to you?
I think the way we learn at NID is, I think, the most important thing because that is something that you never get in any other place under one roof with all the facilities, all the guidance, and all the tools that are required for you to explore as much as possible. So I think the 3 years I spent, I did everything that I could lay my hands on at the campus. I Most of the time I used to be in the workshops or in the building doing something or the other. And yeah, I guess by the end of it, I guess I had so much work that I wanted to explore more. Uh, I studied furniture, but after I graduated, I didn't practice furniture for almost 5, 6 years. Immediately after graduating, we started a company in Hyderabad to do with special effects. Uh, I worked as an assistant cameraman for a few years. So I just wanted to see what can be done. So because NID gave me all those kind of skills to explore, and it never let me kind of that I had to only do this. That I kind of yeah.
Yeah, I understand. So, we are talking about NID and the experience there. It's one of the most prestigious institutes giving a formal design training to people. But there are a lot of people out there who want to pursue design as a career, but might not have the access to formal design education. So, what do you think is the way about it? Is it imperative in today's market or today's world to have a formal design education to be a designer?
I think not necessary. You can always pick up the skills, but it's always good to kind of understand the process for you to kind of manipulate. And and if you don't get through a design institute, you can always follow your heart, do your projects, develop your prototypes of thoughts, uh, because that's very important to kind of bring forth the proof of concept if you're trying to solve a problem. It could be a product, it could be a graphic, it could be a story, it could be anything. And once you build that, you can share it with because with social media you can do that. With digital being around, you can just put it up and you can interact with people and get their inputs and feedback. You can apprentice with maybe design houses, design studios, and I can get into it. So this, I guess, I think we need to relook at education and learning from a new perspective now, because with new tools that we have, we don't have to actually uh, go to a large institute or get because uh, because the selection process also limits a lot of people to get into it. Yeah, because we cannot always say, okay, this is the right process, that if you do this, you are only good for that. Uh,
Agreed.
so, see,
So, yeah, we were talking about the process and how to come about the making of a product. So, this is a very common question we come across from industrial designers. How many iterations are too many iterations? Like, can you hear me?
yeah, yeah.
Hello? Yeah. So, yeah.
I
So,
think till the
do we?
moment that you
Yeah.
do, you cannot do anything
Yes, go
beyond the
ahead.
last
Yes.
iteration. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we just keep
So
doing
you have
till
to
we
keep
find it.
doing it till the point that, yeah, that it's okay. You have done everything that you cannot find another way to do it. So,
So, I'd like to ask you about if you could say, tell us something about your future projects or upcoming projects that we might get to see.
uh, I don't know. Too many things that I explore, and I don't give myself a deadline because I don't want to kind of make a product that kind of just for the sake of making it. Uh, my objective of doing the kind of work I do, because it allows me to travel, experience different ways of life, meet different people, and that's my main objective. The product is just an outcome of this whole process. So I don't really sit and say, okay, I have to design a chair today or a table tomorrow, or I guess I just want to plan, okay, I need to go to that place and explore and understand this new culture and see if I can contribute anything there, or is it anything that needs to be done or not done? Because it's not always that you have to do something. Uh, I don't know if I could answer that question, but I guess it's not put it straightforward. But I guess you need to keep exploring till you find what you really want,
Agreed. I
and keep doing it over and over again.
So we have nearly like 100 people watching you right now. There are a lot of creators. There are a lot of people who want to be a part of the designers community. So, do you have something to say to them? Some words of encouragement.
The encouragement, I don't know. Just follow your heart. Keep exploring, and don't let yourself down by seeing things that are already done and say, okay, oh, look, someone else has already made it. Because we always kind of move back, saying someone has already made it. Why should I make it? So I guess we need to break that notion of someone has made it kind of a concept. Just explore, do what you want to do, and that will take you to something else. Because the moment you need to start, if you don't start, then you won't keep exploring.